Welcome back. One final point before we go tonight. This final point is for all you gun control activists out there. The ones cheering for a ban on all semi-automatic weapons. The ones blaming the 5 million law-abiding, gun-owning members of the NRA for a massacre we had nothing to do with. The ones masquerading as journalists, and especially the ones who sent me so many lovely emails threatening me with violence. Because, you oppose violence. Stop blaming the Parkland massacre on AR-15s and start looking for real solutions. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you don't care about dead kids. I think you do. I think you do care. I'm not going to sit here and blame you for the massacre. I don't think it's your fault. But you cheer for Delta and United and Enterprise Rent-A-Car for cutting ties with the NRA. But what mass shooter in our history has ever been a member of the NRA? None. You cheer for Dick's Sporting Goods for declaring that they no longer will sell assault-style rifles in their stores. But Dick's never sold assault rifles. Assault rifles are fully automatic. AR-15s are semi-automatic. Dick's stopped selling AR-15s after Sandy Hook. So yeah, the drama that you're perpetuating today is pretentious virtue signaling. Just so you know, before you make a fool of yourself celebrating. You use the teenagers who witnessed the attack at Stoneman Douglas High School on your TV shows as an excuse to justify being intolerant of any opposition to your progressive anti-gun agenda. The kids are experts, you declare. They were the ones who were there. How dare you challenge their prescriptions to fix gun violence? Well, if you're so confident that you're right, why are you so afraid of somebody arguing with you? Can't you defend your policy proposals? See, that's the thing. I don't think you can. When Stoneman Douglas High School student David Hogg tweeted, "Can we agree that if you are a mentally ill individual, you should not be able to get a weapon?" You in the media, you anti-gun activists, you didn't even bother to point out the obvious. Who doesn't agree with that? Yes, do your research. Everybody agrees mentally ill people should not be permitted to purchase or possess a firearm. To suggest otherwise is a lie. It's established in our law and in the court of public opinion, mentally ill people should not be able to obtain a firearm. Nicholas Cruz should not have been able to purchase that firearm. The problem wasn't the weapon itself. The problem was Nicholas Cruz. And the problem was the law enforcement who did nothing to stop him. So let's ask ourselves, how did that mentally ill individual get a gun? Who did not enforce the law that would have prohibited Nicholas Cruz from getting his hands on that firearm? Who failed to do their duty, which led to Nicholas Cruz getting his hands on a gun? Because follow along now, if those laws are already on the books, and they are, and if Nicholas Cruz violated those laws, and he did, the missing piece of the puzzle isn't to blame the firearm. The missing piece of the puzzle is why weren't those laws enforced and applied to Cruz when he broke them? Whose job is it to enforce our laws? Well, law enforcement, hence their name. If the Broward County Sheriff's Department had monitored Cruz in February of 2016, after they received a tip that he might be a school shooter, after he posted disturbing images of guns on Instagram, would that have prevented Cruz's attack? If the Broward County Sheriff's Department had responded properly to the 45 calls they received about Cruz's violence, would that have prevented Cruz's attack? If they had written a report, arrested Cruz after they put him in the back of a squad car after he committed domestic violence against his mother, would that have prevented Cruz's attack? If the Broward County Sheriff's deputy, the school resource officer, had not refused to share information with the state social services about a so-called incident with the teenager, would the Florida Department of Children and Families have ruled Cruz to be stable, even though he had a history of violence and self-harm? If law enforcement had arrested Cruz for sending death threats to specific individuals, threatening to kill his ex-girlfriend's new boyfriend, if the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office had acted on the report that Cruz put a gun to other people's heads, if the school had acted on their knowledge that Cruz ingested gasoline in an attempt to commit suicide, if the FBI had investigated the terror threat Cruz posted on YouTube, if the FBI had forwarded the warning they received from a person close to Cruz 2 months prior to the attack, warning that Cruz was planning the attack, if the sheriff's office had acted after Cruz called the cops on himself in November, clearly a danger to himself and others, if 4 Broward County Sheriff's deputies had not stood outside during the shooting, doing nothing to stop the attack while 17 people were murdered inside the building, would that have made any difference in saving people's lives? If you are not willing to answer these questions and answer them honestly, which so far you have not been, then save me your virtue signaling, your finger-pointing, school boycotting, pretentious ridiculing of gun owners, the NRA, and vilification of AR-15s, until you actually know the facts. And that's my final point. You can reach me on Twitter at Liz_Wheeler. If you like the show, please send me an email at oann.com/contact. In the meantime, catch us here tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern. And until then, have a good night.